So when we were first designing the suit for Spider-Man, we had to think about a bunch of things. First, you have to figure out what makes a Spider-Man suit a Spider-Man suit. What was classic about it? So one thing we looked at was obviously the coloring. We kept the red and the blue color because Spider-Man's suit actually comes in a bunch of different colors, but if you're not a Spider-Man fan, you may not even know that. So because we wanted to establish our brand new universe, we decided that it was best to just keep it red and blue because that's what most people are familiar with. And then the other thing we looked at, which was really interesting to me, was the web design and the web patterning. And one thing that's super cool about the web patterning in the classic suits is that it always starts in the center and it emanates outward. But then that web patterning actually continues on the entire design of the suit. So anywhere there's red, for example, that web patterning actually continues. So that's something that we did to continue the classic suit look. And then from there, we actually had to look at what would make it modern and what would make it functional. And one of the things I looked at was, what a 23-year-old would be using as his inspiration when he's creating a suit. So a couple things that we did was we looked at athletic gear. So if you think about how functional athletic gear is and like what it does to support you, what it does to allow flexibility, that's the same type of logic we apply to the suit. So if you look at our suit, you'll see that there's a lot of paneling that might be similar to something you find in athletic gear. We also looked, for example, at athletic shoes. So you'll see that one of the main things that's different about our suit that's different than the classic suit is that there's no longer a red boot. And that's because if you're a 23-year-old, you very much probably are not going to want to wear a red boot. It's not something that it would be cool. We thought an athletic shoe would be more appropriate for someone who's that age. The other thing we did was, in looking at sports gear, was just trying to think about the functionality of the suit. And if you look at the color blocking on the suit, you'll notice that there's actually a lot of rationale behind it. The blue is where we allow flexibility for Spider-Man, so that's where he would require the highest range of motion. Anything that's red is actually made out of a slightly thicker material, and it's what he would be using for armor reinforcement. It's where he might get hit the most, or where he might be, for example, scraping against a building when he's swinging around the city. And then we get to the white. And the white is actually like a flexible carbon fiber. So if you look really closely at it, you'll see the surfacing on it, and you can tell it's carbon fiber. That's located on his chest, it's on his gauntlets, and also on his feet. That's what he would use for, again, when he's fighting, that's where he wants reinforcement. And if he's blocking, that's the other reason why you want carbon fiber in those locations. So a lot of effort went into, figuring out the rationale behind this suit. The very first time we worked on this, his anatomy, we actually had sculpted him as like a gangly teenager, right? So he was really lanky, he was a bit skinny, he looked kind of awkward. But when we were playing with that model in game, he didn't look right because, again, he's supposed to be older, he's supposed to be more confident. So it didn't really look right. And then we went the other way and we actually started making him look more like a linebacker or football player. And then you have this really buff, kind of heavyset person like swinging through the city, and that didn't look right either. So we finally settled on something that was a little bit more fluid, more like a fighter's build. And that's what you see in our Spider-Man, someone who's more competent, but again, more experienced. So Spider-Man is really interesting to animate because unlike a lot of superheroes who might fly, for example, or maybe has a super vehicle, he's basically the vehicle, right? So it all comes down to what he's able to do when he's swinging. And there might be the idea of like, well, you can get on a mocap stage, put a stuntman in a rope and just have him swing around and it's gonna look awesome. But that's not actually true because we actually did some funny things. For example, we had the stuntman try to crawl around as if he was stuck to a wall. And it looked cool in real life because a real human being was doing it. But when you transfer that into CG, it actually looks a bit odd. So we actually had to think about like when we would actually use mocap and when it made sense. For example, if he's on the ground and throwing a punch, that would make sense. But when he's swinging, that's not necessarily something that you can mocap. So that was something that we would hand key and maybe use a little bit of mocap. But we basically would have to craft that ourselves and add a little stylization to make it look like he's actually swinging. And then the other really cool thing about our animation is that our Spider-Man is obviously a more experienced Spider-Man. He's not just learning how to swing. He actually knows what he's doing. So he swings with a lot of style and a lot of confidence. And that's something else that we want to come out in his animation. The other really cool thing about our Spider-Man in particular was just the rig and what went into the rig, because in a lot of other games, the character's obviously wearing tons of armor or many layers of clothing. From an artistic point of view, Spider-Man is basically a naked man. So that's actually pretty punishing because there's not really any room for error there. You can't hide it with armor. All the deformations have to look absolutely stunning when he's swinging around, so he looks amazing in all of the crouch poses, the extensions, all the acrobatics that you expect from Spider-Man. So we actually had to handcraft the rig where anytime there was a lot of extreme muscle deformation, we would actually hand sculpt all of those poses. So for example, when I raise my arm, my muscles are moving, right? And we actually would sculpt all that musculature in there and then incorporate it into the rig. And there are tons of these hand sculpted pieces inside the rig. So next time you check out one of our trailers when you're playing the game, I mean, definitely look at how Spider-Man's moving and how fluid he's moving, and ask yourself, how did they do that? Because that's part of the magic, I guess, of making this game and creating Spider-Man.
Hey everyone, welcome to News to Astonish, where we discuss comics, movies, games, and more. Welcome to another brand new video on Spider-Man PS4. Today we're basically going to be doing an overview of the Spider-Man suit from Insomniac games. In this video, Jacinda Chu basically covers all the details and functionality of the Spider-Man suit. It's pretty awesome realizing after watching this video is that this suit is really advanced and designed really well for protection. Just going over all the aspects of the suit and the purpose they serve really makes a lot of sense when you think about it. At first, when I first saw the trailer for Spider-Man PS4 back in June 2016, I'll admit I didn't really like the design of the suit at first. But after time went by and I started seeing more gameplay footage, it really grew on me and I ended up liking it after all. So far, all we know is that the suit is made up of several layers of different fabrics and materials. The suit is designed with materials like athletic fabrics, carbon fiber, athletic shoes, and more. This breakdown of the suit really makes it feel as if you were Spider-Man. You would use these types of real-world applications if you were going to go, let's say, spelunking, ice skating, crossfitting, or even web swinging. What's really impressive about this design is the amount of thought that went into making the suit. If you were a superhero with acrobatic abilities, I'm sure you'd want an actual protective gear on you, especially if you're going to be jumping off rooftops really often and fighting criminals. I also really appreciated that Insomniac really paid homage to the classic Spider-Man suit by keeping the classic red and blue colors, but sort of giving it a modern twist to his suit. In reality, a spandex suit isn't sufficient when it comes to landing on your feet, throwing punches and kicks. There's got to be a layer of protection for all of your vital parts of your body, and I'm happy that they've made this design. It shows that Insomniac is really passionate and very attentive to detail in their design. So anything that's blue on the suit is designed with a material that's more elastic and that requires more range of motion. Anything that's red is designed with a thicker material, and it's what he'd be using for armor reinforcement. And of course, for the white parts of the suit, like the Spider-Man emblem, knuckles, bottom of the feet, radius, and ulna, which are your lower arm bones for those of you unfamiliar with human anatomy, are made out of a flexible carbon fiber. I don't know anything about designing a costume, but it's still small attention to detail that makes me appreciate and respect game designers even more. You all heard it here first, guys. They could have easily mocapped someone, but instead opted for crafting it themselves and animating Spider-Man's movements themselves, which sounds like it could have taken a very long time. Just knowing the amount of detail and work that went into crafting and designing Spider-Man makes me want to have the game even more. Insomniac, shut up and take my money. One of you guys who could be the lucky winner of the giveaway are probably saying the same exact thing right now. This is going to be the best Spider-Man game ever. Well guys, that's everything on the design of the Spider-Man suit. Tell me, what are your thoughts on the suit? Which costume are you most excited about? And what's your favorite Spider-Man suit from the comics, movies, or games? Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and click on the bell notification so you don't miss anything. The next update on Spider-Man PS4 is on April 23rd, so I'll post a video for that as soon as possible. In the meantime, look out for more comic book related news. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I will see you all in the next comic panel.